Touhou LostWord just released a new epic unit. These units cannot be sparked, which means that you cannot exchange for them, so no matter how many pulls, there's no guarantee that you will get them. They also require epic dolls to limit break. Because there's no guarantee to get her no matter how many pulls you do, it's a bit of a gamble to pull for her. In this video, we're going to take a look at what she can do and why she is good. So obviously she's going to be good. She's an epic unit, the developers like money, so they'll make her good. They made her look pretty good as well this time. Okay, so the main thing that she's known for is this skills which remove Partywide. That means she removes locks, stuff like grace lock, skill lock, boost lock, whatever that you might see in EX stages or challenging stages. And she does this actually 3 times on this skill, which has pretty low cooldowns of 4 and 5, and on her last word, which is slightly less relevant but might come in handy as well. So this is just power creeping Otohime, the previous character which could, previously the only character which could do, which had Partywide lock removal. So she's kind of a better Otohime, but one thing to note is that Otohime had a passive that removes luck from herself, which means that she could get around skill lock. If Yukari is skill locked, then she can't really unlock her skills because her skills will be locked, unless she uses her last word to undo the skill lock, and then she can use her skills to unlock other stuff. The thing about these locks is that these locks, when you use a skill, it will dispel a random lock. So if there are 2 locks, then you'll dispel a random one, but since you have 2... so if there's a stage of 2 locks, then Yukari would work because she can dispel both of them, but Otohime would dispel a random one, which wouldn't work for a farming setup. Next, let's take a look at her elemental breaks. So if you take a look at her spell cards, the layout is very similar to Blue Moon. She has it's half water and half sun, as Blue Moon has. Of course, Blue Moon has sun and wood instead, but the layout looks very similar. And for her solo spell card as well, compared to Blue Moon's solo spell card, it's half sun and half water. So they both these characters get 3 power on turn 1 from their skills, so they can have access to all these breaks on turn 1 if they so choose. But the thing about one thing about Blue Moon is that she does get spirit power on her spell card. Yukari does not, so Yukari might need a little bit more spirit power from outside sources like story cards, so as compared to Blue Moon. So in terms of elemental breaks, quite similar for the spell cards. For the shots, Blue Moon does get sure hit sun and sure hit wood on both her shots. Yukari does not. This is not sure hit, which can be a slight problem. She does get sure hits water on her focus shot. In terms of elemental breaks, they are quite similar, but Blue Moon gets paralyzed on her all spell card. So she inflicts paralyze and then breaks paralyze. So she has paralyze insta break on this all spell card, which means all enemies which are not immune to paralyze will get hit by 3 paralyze, and then those 3 barriers will be broken once this bullet line hits. And Blue Moon also inflicts another 3 paralyze from her skills, so basically that's a lot of paralyze breaks that she can do, and to all targets as well. And she also breaks burn, which can be nice, even though she doesn't inflict any burn. On Yukari, she does not get this treatment for her all spell card. So these bullet lines do inflict some freeze, cooling on all targets. This one as well looks like it's 100% chance for all these spell cards. So if you do boost 3 times, you can inflict 3 freeze, but it does not break those freeze, so it's not that useful for breaking barriers. She does get freeze break on her solo spell card, but that's not as good because usually you want to break all enemies, especially with Anomaly breaks. Her solo spell card does inflict 3 freeze and instantly breaks it if this bullet line hits, or this bullet line. So this will be pretty good against enemies weak to water. It's very likely the freeze break will come first and then the water breaks will come. So she will break 3 freeze barriers and then can break 3 water barriers if the enemy is weak to water, that is. Yukari also gets some freeze break on her shots, which Blue Moo does not. She gets melting on her red shot. It's a bit of a problem because it's not sure hit, so she will need to have accuracy if she wants to rely on this, and she does inflict freeze on her focus shot. So she can inflict and break freeze barriers with her shots, but this is kind of for like meme stall setups rather than actual farming, or because most of the time you want to use spell cards, which are a lot better than shots because you get to equip story cards on them and you get to move before enemies. One thing to note is that her spell cards are mostly sun. The first bullet line is sun, which means that a good portion of damage is sun, especially the spell card 1, because the water lines are yin, and she does not have a lot of yin attack, so if you're against like enemies weak to water and you want to do a lot of damage, like water damage with your spell cards, then they might not be that good for doing that. Because her last word is water, so she will be good against enemies weak to water. If you compare that to Blue Moo, her spell cards are mostly sun, and her last word is all sun. So there's a little bit more synergy of elements between Blue Moo's spell cards and last word as compared to Yukari, even though the layout looks kinda similar. Now let's take a look at her buffs. So I'm gonna start with Partywide buffs. She has Partywide, Yang attack, and Crit attack, the 3 levels for 4 turns on the skill, as well as if she boosts and raises 3 times, she gets 3 more Yang attack and Crit attack to the whole party, which is quite nice. So 6 Yang attack and Crit attack for 4 turns. So that sounds quite nice, and she also gets another 2 Yang attack as well as 3 Yang defense on Partywide on this spell card. That sounds pretty nice, but the thing is, a lot of newer units already gets quite a lot of these buffs if they need them. They on their own skills, so this might not be as good as you might think. 8 Yang attack is a little bit overkill since the cap is 10. However, older units might benefit from these buffs, because older units tend to not have a lot of self buffs in their kits, especially like old rebirth units like rebirth L1 Sanai. Which will actually benefit a lot from the Yang attack and Crit attack. But one thing that's quite striking is that she does not have party-wide accuracy, and this is kind of unusual for a new unit. Many new units do have that, like Blue Moo, who does get that party-wide accuracy on her skill. So this can hurt in longer stages where you want those party accuracy skills to like keep up the accuracy over like many turns. And it also hurts like it also hurts when enemies have evasion mechanics, because then you can't just stack like a lot of party accuracy to get around the evasion. So she mainly boosts Yang attack and Crit attack and a little bit of Yang defense. If you compare that to Blue Moo, Blue Moo does get accuracy. Blue Moo gets some party agility as well as Yin defense, and I would argue this is better than Yang attack and Crit attack, because a lot of units, or rather some of the newer meta units like Kanagi and Hunter Flan, Super Festival Flan, Flander Scarlet, they have slicing in their last words, but they do not have much agility buffs in their kits. So having a teammate like Blue Moo to buff their agility can be quite useful. But stats like Yang attack and Crit attack tend to be very prevalent already, so these buffs might not be as relevant. So overall, I would say her buffs, party buffs, are weaker than Blue Moo's, mainly because of the accuracy. But of course, that's just the buffs. She does have amazing party utility in the form of these 2 lock removals with quite short cooldown periods, as well as 2 party-wide barriers, as well as party-wide spirit power up. And these are all pretty strong barriers. Of course, it's really strong. You get to graze more. Lock removal will get around like all those locks in those EX stages, which is very good. And of course, spirit power up, you get more breaks. You allow some units that don't have like odd amounts of power on turn 1 to reach more power. So like Hunter Flan does not get 3 power on turn 1, but with this 0.75, Hunter Flan can't get 3 power. So she does have amazing team utility besides the lack of party-wide accuracy. And in terms of her own self buffs, she is quite self-sufficient in terms of accuracy, so it might not look like she has some, but here on this bullet line, she does get accuracy. So it's a 100% chance that she would definitely get this accuracy, and that will affect the spell card, so this will like take effect immediately. And she will and this is two levels of accuracy, so it's enough for her to hit 100%. 2 levels accuracy for 2 turns. On her other spell card, it's only 1 accuracy if she's not awakened, and 3 accuracy if she's max awakened. So if she is 1 awakened, if she is not awakened, then she kind of doesn't have perfect accuracy on this spell card. So that's something to look out for. On her last words, she also gets accuracy on the bullet lines, so she is self-sufficient in terms of accuracy. All her spell cards will boost her Yang defense as well, which is good because her last word does have hard scaling, which means it gets more attack. It deals more damage when you have more Yang defense. If you look at her passives, she does have damage from Genshokyo down, which is quite nice. There's a lot of people from Genshokyo and Touhou, that's like the main place. And she has barrier, she has a 65% barrier passive, which is nice for stalling, not that great in farming, because you can't rely on randomness like this in a farming setup. And she has heal barrier status, which might be useful depending on the states, but it's not that likely to be very useful, especially since she's immune to some barrier statuses already, namely poison and blind. So this damage like defensive skills is quite nice because she does have a massive health total which she can make use of, and she has a little bit of focus up on her spell card, health focus up, so she can do a little bit of tanking for the team if required. Now let's take a look at her damage output. I don't really have any clips or videos to show, but we can see the last words. Yes, human yokai god killer on the first line. He has lots of hard, which means more attack with more defense, like I said, and she has very high Yang attack and Yang defense. So she will definitely do lots of damage, that's for sure, and she gets quite a bit of Yang defense down on the last word, 2 levels on the bullet lines and 2 levels from the pre-effect. So she'll definitely do lots of damage, but the killers are a little bit, some of the lines are a little bit weird. She has a swimsuit killer, summer killer, and she does get more human yokai god killer over here, and this one is again the weird killer, swimsuits, moon, hell, swimsuits, summer. So it's a little bit odd, her killers, as compared to Blue Moon. Blue Moon gets quite a bit, I would say, overall better killers on her last word. And killers are really important, of course, because it's a guaranteed crit. So in crits do lots of damage, up to 5 times the damage of a non-crit, assuming if you have maxed out your crit attack, which Yukari is certainly quite able to do. And so her damage does look to be a little bit lower than Blue Moon. On her spell card, however, on her all targeting spell cards, she gets good killers, human yokai god, and the like weird killers on the water lines, but those are yin, and she does not have high yin attacks or whatever. But yeah, so he gets quite good killers on her all targeting spell card. Blue Moon does not. Gets dragon kin killer, which like is very narrow. I think it affects like Iku and Yachi. I'll block your view there, but okay. And she gets yokai soul fairy, which is quite nice on her wood lines, but these are like low weight. So Yukari's all targeting spell card does seem to have better killers than Blue Moon. And her solo targeting spell card also gets like the kind of weird looking killers on the first lines, but some of the water lines do have human yokai god, which are good killers. And for Blue Moon, her solo spell card also gets some nice killers. Yokai is a very wide killer. It's like almost everyone is a yokai in this game. And so that's spell cards. Her last word probably does less than Blue Moon, but it's still gonna do lots of damage, like for sure. She is an epic unit, they will make her good and do lots of damage. In terms of her shots, she does not get killers on her shots, unlike any very good killers. This is the weird Moon Hell Aquatic Swimsuit as well. On her, yeah, so it's kind of weird killers. So, and that's actually like not totally irrelevant. Lumu gets good killers on her shots, and it's not irrelevant. This is something that allows her to farm stages like Witch of Scarlet Dreams, as well as Secret God of the Sky at 6 spirit point cost. So, but like this isn't like such a big deal overall. Like the shot damage, it's just kind of cool that Lumu can do lots of damage with her shots. But if you do want to do stuff like stalling, then it matters, and Yukari is a unit somewhat suitable for stalling because she has that barrier heal as well as health heal, so she can, but her shots do not have like a very good killer, so that like makes her slightly worse for stalling, but that's not really a big deal in terms of like actual content. As for story cards, she already has lots of buffs. She has lots of Yang attack and crit attack, and she has lots of Yang defense on the spell effects, pre-attack effects, as well as on these bullet lines, which is 100% Yang defense. So she doesn't really need any buffing cards, but she can use Spirit Power as usual. Of course, Spirit Power is really good. On her last word, the farmable card from Leimu EX is the best card, providing 65% boost as her last word is both water and liquid on all lines. Or as an alternative, there's a farmable main story card coming soon, which will give 50% liquid bullets up. So if you're trying to do damage with a spell card, you can use that 50% liquid card on this spell card as well to try and maximize the damage. Otherwise, you can use some other utility cards like Party Barrier. She does already have some Party Barrier, but if you need more Party Barrier, you can put it on her to support her party, or something like Party Spirit Power Up, or like Muran Anniversary, which also provides defense down or debuff on the enemies. Overall, very good units. Main selling point is again these lock removals. You can remove those annoying skill lock, grace lock, and all that. I don't know if that's very good. I think it's pretty bad for the game, honestly, because it restricts what the developers can do with all these units which can just like ignore the locks. But whatever, that's really strong in stages that have locks. But if you ignore, if there's a stage without locks or without relevant locks, then I think she will be worse than Bluemu, because Bluemu does have better breaks in terms of this Paralyze, Anomaly, insta breaks on this all targeting spell card. Yukari only gets like freeze insta break on the solo targeting spell card, so her AoE breaking potential is not as good as Bluemu. So she's slightly more of a support kind of unit rather than Bluemu, who does lots of damage. Of course, Yukari will very likely do lots of damage as well, but her damage potential seems to be slightly lower than Bluemu's. She also doesn't get party accuracy, which Bluemu does get, so that's something to note. Of course, she is an epic unit, so if you do try and pull for her, remember that you might not get her. Remember that you need epic dolls to max limit break her, so it might be a while before she can reach her full potential. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you guys learned something new, and see you next time.